Hello gamers, I am Mike TheZorch, and decided to expand upon this series. Instead of just being blogs about the channel, I talk about a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on in the world of gaming and geek culture and everything, and sort of make this a much broader show than what it has been. I've been focusing more on what's going on with my channel, or the lack of things going on with it. I'm working on it. I've just released a new video for Gamers Bay. I'm going to be doing my best to produce more content, which I haven't been doing, and I need to really step up the game. I mean, I come up with all sorts of excuses for what's going on, and part of it's my depression. I have ups and downs. Anyone who suffers from it understands that. And I'm also the god king of procrastination. I know exactly how lazy I am, basically. But today I'm going to be talking about something that all of you should already know about. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that that No Man's Sky just got a update just a few days ago, and wow, we looked at the analytics on Steam, and the number of people playing No Man's Sky right now has just skyrocketed. It's got bugs. God, it's got bugs. We were playing multiplayer, and we got to the Nexus, and me, Tygra, and Dave, we got to the Nexus, and there's just a plethora of bugs. But Hello Games is working on it. They are working to fix a lot of the problems. If you play using the experimental branch, which I'm going to be switching to that, if you use the experimental branch, you'll get bug fixes faster that way than the regular release version. You can easily switch to the experimental branch in Steam. It's accessible to anyone. If you have the game and you go to the discussions page, the instructions on how to enter the how to opt into the experimental branch is in the top pinned post on the Steam discussions page by Hello Games. They tell you exactly how to do it. They give you the code to enable that, and once you enable it, the game will re-download, and you'll get frequent updates through that, because that's where they test out new updates for the game, new patches and everything. There's several things that they've been working on fixing. The one thing about the Beyond update for No Man's Sky that has been a significant game changer is VR. And people who have VR headsets like the Vive and the Rift, and even the headsets I have, which is the Windows Mixed Reality, which is an awful name, which I wish Microsoft would change it. There hasn't been a lot of really big AAA games for VR. Most stuff are short format games, little short mini games, demos. You know, I really liked the Arkham Batman VR experience, but it was just too short. It was just too short. There's not really that many big AAA games. There's some in development now, and there's a few VR MMOs. A couple that look interesting. There's a new one that's sort of a JRPG that looks interesting. First-person VR JRPG that looks really interesting that I might check out. But most VR titles out there don't really have much to them. They're just short format stuff. They're either promotional material for other things, such as movies like the Spider-Man Far From Home VR experience, or the few Star Wars ones that are out there. Then there are stuff like Beat Saber, which is good, which is actually a fun game. But other than that, there's nothing meaty. Now there is Skyrim VR and Fallout 4 VR. But those don't really count. I don't count those as VR games because they're not really VR games. What they've done with Skyrim and Fallout 4 in VR is they took the standard 2D game and they slapped a VR interface onto it. And it's not even that. It's not even really that. I mean, they have your hands floating in space in front of you, but the interface is still really bad, and the Pit Boy on your arm, it's shoehorned VR, basically. And I played it on Tygra's Vive a little bit, and I walked up to a pole, and I did this, expecting to look around it, and I didn't get that VR effect. Not like when I'm in No Man's Sky in VR, when I walk up to a pole and I can look up like this, or look at an object, or in Elite Dangerous. I've been streaming Elite Dangerous in VR, and I can look around the cockpit like this, and you can't do that in Fallout 4 VR. It's not you don't really see that effect. It's like the world around you is a 2D game with 3D VR hands mixed into the world. It's weird. But getting back to No Man's Sky, how this game plays in VR is, I mean, it's super intuitive. When you reach back, grab your gun, and point, it is super intuitive. I mean, I can just whip it out. I don't even need crosshairs to target correctly. I just point, bam. I don't even need crosshairs. The flying your ship is still a little wonky. I'm still getting used to that, but that's not a thing exclusive to this, to the Windows mixed reality hand controllers. It's still something you have to learn, even with the wands for the Vive. And I got to drive around in the dune buggy that you can build in No Man's Sky. Tygra was playing his game, and he got the dune buggy, and he switched over to VR, and I was just driving around with it. It was like just super easy. You just hold the controllers as if you're holding the wheel and turning this way, and just pulling the trigger to accelerate. Super easy. At first, whenever I turned it, the steering wheel didn't move. There was something odd going on there. But then after it started working, it was like super easy to steer. Really super easy to steer. It was like driving in a driving game. It was like, wow. Of course, the wands for the Vive are heavy. They're really heavy. I was actually feeling strain in my arms, holding them up like this, doing this with those controllers. They're heavy compared to this. This is the standard. This is the standard design for Windows mixed reality controllers. You have the grip button here. This is the touchpad, just like on the Vive wand. This is a button here. You have the Windows button here. This is specific for bringing up the Windows mixed reality interface. And then, like the new controller for the Valve Index, you have the joystick, and it's a button. You can push it in, and this is what it looks like when it's on. And these aren't IR LEDs. These are real LEDs, and they get a lot brighter than this. Right now, my desktop PC is off, so they're not connecting with Bluetooth, so they're not getting really bright. But these are really bright LEDs. And battery life is actually pretty good with these. They take 2 AA's or whatever. But what Hello Games did with VR, what they've done with it, they've given people who have headsets, who have been craving for something with meat in it, a meaty, long-form VR game. They finally have it now. They finally have it. They finally have a killer app. I'm calling it now. No Man's Sky Beyond is the VR killer app that people have been wanting. Because there are millions of players, especially on PlayStation 4, who own a PSVR, who have been craving a bigger, longer form game that they could play in virtual reality. And they finally have it. They finally have it. A game that's even multiplayer. There are people comparing No Man's Sky to Warframe now. They're comparing it to Warframe. Because there is so much to this update. Not just VR and multiplayer. The 2.0 side, the third aspect of the Beyond update, which Hello Games has been so quiet about for so long, just takes all these different elements that they've had in the game, including a lot of new stuff, just so many new things we just still have not seen yet, and combine them together in a way that makes cohesive gameplay. They have wiring now. I messed with a little bit of wiring and power systems for powering your base. They basically have a crude form of Redstone in the game. And you can do everything that Redstone does, you can pretty much do with this. And there are some things that they still need to work out in VR. The Galaxy View is a mess. That needs to be fixed. And building. The building is another thing that really needs to be addressed, because if you're using a controller, you can actually walk around and even jump while building a base. In VR, you can't move. You can turn, but you can't move, you can't jump. You're in a fixed position, and that needs to be really worked on. That needs to be fixed. Otherwise, everything else is just like, wow. I mean, the work that they've done. There are bugs, as I said. When we landed at the Nexus, there were ships that they would land on their platform and they would just start floating off and start floating around. There was even one person that was still in their ship and it was floating around. And it wasn't something that was just seen on their client. It's something server-based. So they land in their ship, and then it floats off the platform and just starts floating around the entire interior space inside the Nexus. And if you log out, log back in, it resets it and puts you back on the platform. Other than that, other than the plethora of bugs, we also ran into a bug with the quest with Nada and Polo, but we were able to finally progress past that. We've actually submitted some bug reports, and Hello Games has hired on a much bigger QA team that tackled the bugs. They brought in people from Sony. They have a QA team with Sony, and they brought in a huge QA team of their own to work on all the bugs in the game. So as I said, switch over, if you're on PC, on Steam, switch over to the experimental branch. It's really easy. And if you have VR, play this game in VR. This right now is the game to own if you have virtual reality. Now, if you've been craving a game with meat, a meaty VR game, one that will last more than just 10 minutes, No Man's Sky is the game you've been looking for. So if you're interested in seeing what No Man's Sky looks like in VR, you can... Oh, where is it? Ah, there it is. You can go and check out my live stream of No Man's Sky in VR and on my channel. And I will be going back and streaming the game again. Maybe tonight. I don't know. It depends on, whether I'm able to or not. But yeah, I'm going to continue streaming the game. Don't know when I'm going to get back to Elite Dangerous streaming. No Man's Sky is pretty much taking up all of our time. Anyway, I've been Mike TheZorch. Thanks for watching.